everyone in the press is talking about how the economy took a little bit of a nosedive because the Dow isn't doing well. I got to be honest with you, I am not as concerned with the Dow as I am with what we've been seeing in this economy for ordinary Americans, many of whom aren't invested in the stock market at all. And there was this great opinion piece written for BuzzFeed News. I want to give Tom Garrick a lot of credit because he's raising awareness about something that's been keeping me up at night. The stimulus legislation that was passed by Congress is set to expire in many ways. And that means that many ordinary Americans are going to be left without any type of plan, without any type of help, any type of stimulus, because Congress still isn't really doing anything about the next phase of possible stimulus. So as Gara writes in BuzzFeed News on July 31st, which is quickly approaching, the $600 federal unemployment payments going to unemployed people every week will end, and there's no sign they'll be replaced with anything nearly as generous. In fact, many Republicans want to replace them with nothing at all. And there's also little sign that another round of one-time stimulus checks will get mailed out. So, all right, already we're dealing with a severe loss of household income, and we still have tens of millions of Americans who are unemployed. The economy is not going to experience a so-called V-shaped recovery. The chairman of the Federal Reserve has come out and said, Jerome Powell is his name, he came out and said, no, it's not going to be a V-shaped recovery. In fact, there's a lot to worry about here. And that's what partially impacted the Dow today. Now, this month, by the way, about 1/3 of renters are unable to pay their rent in full or at all, despite all the stimulus money. The federal law that bans evictions in any properties financed by federally backed mortgages, more than a quarter of all households, according to one estimate, expires on July 25th, just a week before millions of people's main economic lifeline is pulled away. And then let me just give you two more examples of the disaster that's coming up, Cenk. Gara also writes about some of the student loan payments that have been put on hold. Well, payments on millions of paused student loans will begin again at the beginning of October. The more than 4 million homeowners who received a 6-month pause on their mortgages will also have to start making payments at the end of October. And big employers are like thinking of ways to oh, how can we shift things around? Do we really need all these employees? Maybe not. And that's disastrous when you consider that there have been studies already done showing that about 40% of the jobs that were lost during COVID are unlikely to ever come back. They're gone permanently. And so Congress, where are you at?
So let me give a little bit of credit first and then go into why you might be right about the upcoming epic collapse. Of course, there's the irony here that the Republicans, after the Bush and the Republican Party crashed the economy back in 2008, once Obama took office, they wouldn't even let him spend $1 trillion to try to rescue, I think, about 12, 13 million jobs at that time. And Obama, and mainly led by Rahm Emanuel, was so scared of the Republicans, they didn't even dare to ask for $1 trillion. So in this case, though, the minute there was an economic problem, Trump asked for $9 trillion. 9. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, the overwhelming majority of that went to multinational corporations. But they actually did spend a good amount on the American people. So there was an influx of cash to American households in over the last couple of months. Okay, so that's good, and so it did rescue average Americans to some extent as well. Much more so for the bigger companies. That's why the stock market almost went back up to where it was, because we just dumped trillions of dollars. If you thought, hey, my household did okay, I got $1,200 or a little bit more, and it really did help me, well, you should get a load of the boardrooms for the Fortune 500 companies. They're popping champagnes left and right. And so they got most of the money. Now, coronavirus is now peaking in 19 states. It is now rising back up in almost half the states in the country, right? So, which is, I'm scared to death of, because you cannot contain it. So if it's rising in 19 states, it'll soon, I am worried, will be rising in most of the states. So if coronavirus hits us again and we got to go back indoors, when the money runs out and we still have over 20 million Americans unemployed, and then the Republicans go, no, I already gave trillions to the corporations. They're my donors. And the American people go pound sand. Oh, boy. I mean, and by the way, it'll be an epic mistake on their part. I know they don't care actually about the American people, but they do care about maintaining their power. And politically, if that tsunami hits in August and September, Trump is beyond toast. And I'm telling you, so the second time telling you today, he'll lose over 40 states. It'll be an epic landslide.
And while Republican lawmakers are refusing to do anything substantive to help ordinary Americans, there have been some efforts in the House because it's controlled by Democrats. And so there have been bills that have significant relief for Americans, including recurring $2,000 a month payments during the duration of this pandemic. And that makes a lot of sense because people do need help. They also want to extend the amount of time that the unemployment benefits are ramped up with the help of the federal government. But of course, this type of legislation will make its way to the Senate, and it's dead on arrival because Mitch McConnell blocks it. And so here's Bernie Sanders fighting for us again by calling out Mitch McConnell and the inaction that Democrats are experiencing because of their Republican colleagues in Congress. Take a look.
Historians have suggested that in the year 64 AD, while Rome was burning, the Emperor Nero played his fiddle. At least he did something. He provided entertainment to his court. But here in the U.S. Senate, Republican leader McConnell and his leadership team are doing nothing. Sadly, tragically, this is the worst do-nothing Senate in modern American history, and every member of this body should be deeply ashamed at the degree to which we are failing our constituents.
So Bernie's saying the right things, and it at least feels good to hear someone saying the right things in Congress and holding Mitch McConnell accountable. It's just frustrating because where do we go from here? And I think you're right. I think that Republicans who want to block this type of legislation, who don't care at all about offering any help to ordinary Americans, will pay some political price. But in the meantime, how many people are going to suffer because they don't have the means to provide for themselves and their families?
Yeah, so look, the actual impact to Americans is far more important. But when you talk about the politics, I could see the Democrats snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. I could see what the McConnell and Trump go, no way, we're not going to give anything to average Americans. They don't donate. I don't care. We're not going to give it to them. And then run into the iceberg in August and September, then panic because the election's coming up and say, oh, let's give a giant check to the American people that arrives in late October, right before we vote in the beginning of November, and Pelosi and Schumer agreeing, and everybody getting this giant check right before they vote, right? Signed by Donald Trump. So is that possible? Yeah, the Democratic leadership is horrific at politics, so it is totally possible. Having said that, it's not, the story about the scorpion and the frog, and the scorpion stings the frog in the middle of the river, and they both die, and the frog's last words was, why did you do it? The scorpion says, because I'm a scorpion, I couldn't help it, right? And so I think that McConnell and Trump, at the end of the day, are not going to give anything to the average American. So they're going to let Pelosi and Schumer off the hook politically. They're going to give us bupkis, and the misery index is going to go through the roof. And the only silver lining will be that Trump will get humiliated.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.